Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast arena. Coming to the ring at this time...
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
First, representing This Week in Geek, and from parts unknown, he is Mike, the Birdman, Dodd.
I am one hardcore D-O-double-D.
I'm a nice man. I'm a nice man.
His tag team partner, representing the Geekcast radio network, and hailing from the outer reaches of your mind, he is Mike, TFG1 Blanchard.
I got 4 words for you. Check out my ass.
And from the Great White North, here is your special guest referee, Ryan, the UnEvenFlow.
The monkey always gets his man.
You are listening to Mayhem Mics. And now, let's get ready to podcast!
It has been an incredible night of hard-hitting action here in Los Angeles.
Rage caught Cena Spear!
As No Mercy comes to a close. But now there's a standstill at the Valet as Bayley argues with Sasha Banks over who gets the pilot seat.
Dude, I always drive first.
And the hotly rumored Shield reunion appears to be on hold a bit longer as Dean and Seth are stuck waiting for the big dog, Roman Reigns.
This is a big one.
Tonight's destination is Ontario, California, a mere 48-minute drive, not factoring in that LA traffic, of course.
LA traffic?
For the superstars of WWE, it's a road that never ends. Now witness their journey and their drive. Sit back and enjoy the ride. This is WWE Ride Along.
Hello and welcome to Mayhem Mics. This is episode 44, and ladies and gentlemen, we are starting this one off on a down note. There's been a lot of sad things going on in the WWE. I am, of course, TFG and Mike. Joining me, as always, Ryan, the UnEvenFlow Merkley. Hello, sir.
Yo.
Yo.
Speaking of sad things, I'm here. No, anyway. Yesterday was a rough day.
Yeah, so we're recording this Monday, July 30th, 2018. Sunday, July 29th, there were 2 big things that happened in the WWE universe that are not, particularly good. We've had 2 deaths in the WWE family. Take it away.
Yeah, I will start with the oldest one, I guess, which was Nikolai Volkov, died at the age of 70. So a pretty good run. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. And we were talking about this before the show. Anyone who grew up and watched any wrestling in the 80s really knows who Volkov is. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the evil foreigner wrestling character, he's the first one that comes to mind and was one of the more famous kind of prototypes. Obviously, it was done before then, but right. He's the one I think of, and I think a lot of people think of immediately.
He's the one that basically made it mainstream. He's the one that basically made the evil foreigner character famous, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's infamous because, he did stuff like he would sing the anthem. I think most people remember that. He had famous feuds with Sergeant Slaughter and Hulk Hogan, the prototypical American favorites. So, I don't know, like I said, when I think of the foreign heel character, he's the one I think of, and we've seen so many since then, be it unsuccessful, we had Jinder Mahal, or the more successful ones, we had Rusev most recently.
Yeah.
who, he was hated during that feud with Cena. And Volkov, when Volkov feuded with Hogan, it just rained boos the entire time. So he was over, and he played the part really well, and it's just, at least he got a full life. I mean, so many of the people who I grew up watching are gone and have been gone for some time. So sad, but less sad, I would say, than the next one, which was at the age of 46, Brian Christopher, aka Brian Lawler, Jerry's son, passing away. Brian had a very complicated life, we'll say, and it's just a sad story all around for the family. And he was famous for, during the Attitude Era, Too Cool, of course, teaming with Grandmaster, or he was Grandmaster Sexy, and it was Scotty Too Hottie.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, and they would team up with Rikishi as well, and just another one that, in his case, I mentioned so many of the people I grew up watching when I was a kid are gone. Well, this is somebody I was in my teens watching, and it's really sad. I don't know, it just... Yeah, drugs are bad, folks. I mean, wrestling is such a sad kind of sport to go through, or remember back.
Yeah.
It's hard on your body, and so a lot of people turn to drugs or alcohol to kind of numb it, and just...
Yeah, it's extremely hard, and, like we said a couple episodes ago when we did the Hardy Boys Woken thing for the WWE 24 series, they had such a hard road. All of these wrestlers from the past 30, 40, 50 years have all had hard roads and had to deal with stuff. Look at, Andre the Giant when we talked about that. But yeah, it sucks that, and yes, these people, we don't know these people, but we do feel like we know them because they came into our homes every week on television and gave us entertainment or whatever, and, something happens to these people and you think, oh, wow, that's a part of how I grew up or whatever. It's not about knowing them personally. For me, it's always been about what they give me on the screen.
And in general, it's just sad when somebody passes away early, and whatever your feelings on that person, you then have to everyone around them has to deal with it. Be it Jerry, who's lost a son, or be it people who worked with Christopher. Some of my favorite wrestlers in the Attitude Era worked with him and are probably saddened by this. And so, yeah, it's not pleasant for anybody. It's sad news, and it's really depressing that it feels like it's the same sort of story every year or so, that somebody has gone early from wrestling. And we're seeing it in some other sports too. I mean, football, most notably. I mean, I remember Junior Seau really well.
Yep.
Who eventually took his own life with a lot of post-concussion syndrome issues. And just, you just don't want to see it.
No, you don't. But at the same time, it does happen and it does suck. I mean, as you said, most of these sports figures will cope, especially wrestlers, with drugs or alcohol because of specifically alcohol, because of the pain, I would think, because of all of that. But, there's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, you can enjoy the time that you have with them here. You can enjoy the entertainment that you have with them. And I don't know. So we're going to do a quick moment of silence for Volkov and Brian Christopher, and we'll be right back with today's episode of Mayhem Mics. May they rest in peace.
ride along. The Shield's in the car together.
Sierra Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
All right, folks, we are back here on Mayhem Mics, and we're doing something a little different this time around. We're going to be talking about 2 episodes from 2 of the WWE Network series. One is Ride Along, and the other is Table for 3. Ride Along, we watched the Shield and Sasha and Bayley, the Hounds of the Highway episode, where it's 3 members of the Shield, Dean, Seth, and Roman, driving from. Both sets of people are driving from Los Angeles to Ontario, California. What did you think of this? I know you've probably seen more ride-alongs than I have, because this is my first episode, but what do you think of the overall format of Ride-Along?
I haven't watched a whole lot of it, and when I finished this one, though, I wanted to watch more. These 2 episodes we're going to talk about, Ride Along and Table for 3, although ours is a Table for 4, are short. It's 24 minutes on the network, and when it was over, I wanted to watch another one. I think so they're very different. The Ride Along is just kind of the wrestlers riffing and
reminiscing and
telling stories and hanging out, and I enjoyed both of them. My favorite bits are I liked Sasha and Bayley, in particular Bayley, trying to get a picture with Neville.
That was hilarious.
Neville's a joker for anyone who's watched Up, Up, Down, Down, or any of his other appearances off camera. And I thought that was funny. Also, it's funny to me just that Sasha and Bayley are pretty much how you would imagine them to be in real life, just from watching them. And then as for the Shield, I liked a couple things. I liked Dean telling a story of making it in the WWE, where he signed and he got a place that was just an absolute dump with stuff everywhere and busted, I think it was a dryer sitting around in the apartment.
Yeah, he said there was like washing machines and dryers in the apartment and cockroaches and stuff, because he couldn't get a real apartment because he had an eviction on his record, so he had to find something through Craigslist. So yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, I liked that, and just Seth and Dean waiting, particularly Seth, waiting on Roman, who was meeting with Vince, having a chat with him.
I love the beginning of it where, is it Seth or is it Dean? It's Seth that goes over. Is this our car? This is our car right here, right? And it's Vince's car, obviously. You can clearly tell it's Vince's limousine. And then that's how Roman stops there, and then Dean and Seth are like, okay, kind of waiting on you here. Let's go, big dog. I love that. I thought that was hilarious.
I like Seth telling the story, too, that the first week after they broke up, the other 2 had trouble getting to the getting there without him, because apparently Seth is their navigator / driver.
Apparently, and apparently Bo Dallas can't drive for crap.
Yeah, I'm tempted to watch some of the other ones now, because I remember there's the one after they broke up of Ambrose and Cesaro, and it's on the network, and Ambrose's luggage / equipment gets lost on the way. So I really got to watch that one. But yeah, this is fun, and I like seeing the wrestlers having fun, seeing how they kind of unwind. This is right after a show, by the way. This was right after No Mercy.
This was 2017. So No Mercy 2017 was right after that. And this is what I love about the original content on WWE Network. Much like I said with the reality programming, like Total Bellas or Total Divas or Ms. and Mrs. or whatever. The behind-the-scenes stuff is what I love about it. This, I love seeing it all be behind the scenes with little bits of the wrestling mixed into it as it's happened. I thought that was so cool, because like you said, they just left an event. They just wrapped up No Mercy from last year.
Yep. No, I enjoy this, and it's stuff like this, I think we've said this before, and the 24s and some of the other ones that make the network worthwhile, and it's just fun to watch. And I don't. I mean, I'm glad they've decided to continue doing it. For a while, it looked like they were going to cut an awful lot of the program, but suddenly they announced second season for stuff like Camp WWE, Edge and Christian show, and then more of these. I can't imagine it's too expensive for them to put on an episode of Ride Along, so I would hope they continue it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's probably just, again, it's going to depend on where they are. Like, okay, so from Los Angeles to Ontario, it's not that far. In California,
this was a short one.
Yeah, this is a short one. I mean, Seth even specifically said, I kind of wish this ride was a little longer or something. So, let's say they go from Los Angeles to Seattle or something, something like that or whatever. I don't know. I think the whole format of the show is really cool. I love the graphics on all of it because, the whole point is you're on the road and you're riding along with these people and seeing where they're...
And it's just a joy. I love watching Seth and Dean rip Roman for sleeping too much.
And then Dean going off on his French fry distraction. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it's weird because Dean's been on a lot of these, and he was on the Stone Cold podcast, and I've heard him on another couple podcasts. And he's really entertaining here, and then other times he just kind of clams up. I like the storytelling Dean. He's got a ton of great stories, and he's generally just fun, so that was good. And yeah, Seth, it's hard. Seth Rollins is another guy I find that it's hard to dislike him once you start watching the guy on camera as himself.
Yeah, exactly. When we first started this show, this podcast, we, talked about the Shield and the breakup and the this and the that and all the directions and whatever else, and that Seth was the Authority's puppet. Just because I don't like the way a storyline is going on television doesn't mean I don't like the guy. I don't like what I'm seeing on TV with the guy that, the path that his, creative is taking. But other than that, like we said in the episode of The Pullbag when we talked about Volume 1 of WWE from Boom Studios, that was amazing rereading or reliving the Shield formation breakup and then seeing Seth's, career path kind of thing in a comic versus actually on television. But with Ride Along, like you said, it's just fun. We're definitely doing more of these ones. I know we normally give ratings, but I'm not sure if I want to rate this stuff. I don't know.
I wouldn't. It's short, little bite-sized thing. I think it's great if even you want to throw it on in the background and do something else or whatever. It works in that context, and it's one of those things that I don't even know if you necessarily have to be a wrestling fan. I mean, there weren't specifics that you have to know about.
No,
anything.
And they covered essentially what people needed to know. What was it? 6 years since we formed, since we debuted and whatever, and things like that, and a couple of years since the breakup or whatever it was. So they said all the right things to not have to need someone who just came into this and watched the last 6 years of wrestling.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know, and I like that, so we'll get into it now. We watched the Table for Three, although this is a Table for Four.
It's Edge and Christian with the Hardys.
And it's a completely different feeling, and I actually like it. And I enjoy this as well, and it's a completely different show. Yeah. And this conversation is a lot more slow, because, I mean, everybody is just sitting at a table.
And they're having dinner or whatever,
Yeah, and they're just kind of chatting. And the stuff I enjoyed in this was I liked them kind of going through their memories. It was nice, especially hearing Edge talk to Jeff Hardy about what it felt like for him when he got pinned and Hardy won the world title in a triple threat match. I think it was a triple threat with Triple H, because God knows Triple H isn't taking that pin. But anyway, no, it was nice hearing stuff like that. it was interesting hearing Christian, and I've heard him talk about this a few times, but it never really gets old. Christian talking about kind of floundering when they broke up and when that dynamic got changed. And there was other stuff too. I really liked the story about, and I didn't know, about Devon being afraid of heights. And in the match where he and Jeff are hanging, Devon is completely terrified. And he's telling Jeff, no, don't kick me, I'm not ready. And everybody else can hear him. And they're trying hard not to laugh. Because this is in the middle of the match, and they're hanging with the belts above the ring, and Devon is supposed to get kicked a couple times and fall down, but he's terrified of heights and he's just not ready for any of it. But you can't really just sit there and hang around and wait until somebody's okay with it. So stuff like that. Jeff talking about actually everybody else talking about how angry Jeff was when Jeff did stuff and it didn't work out, like trying to walk across ladders that are open and set up.
Yeah.
And I always wondered about that because, I've been on ladders, like most people have, and they're not sturdy, and it's not a lot of fun to be at the top rungs of a ladder, whether you're afraid of heights or not. And I always wonder about all the crazy things. So, these rings are on wood, which has give to it. The rings have a bit of give to them. Obviously not a lot, because it's still incredibly painful when these guys fall down. Yeah. But the ring has some give, and so it's moving. You've got other guys walking around and moving or rolling on the ring. So you've got that additional problem. So the ladder's moving even more because of that. And then in Jeff's case sometimes, or the other's case, they've got to try to walk from or go from ladder to ladder or ladder to table.
Yeah.
I'd be on my face in no time.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to get up on the ladder to walk across the ladder. So what these guys do is just simply amazing.
I'm not really afraid of heights anymore. I used to be, but I'd be crying if the ladder was moving around and I'm at the top. Meanwhile, you got Jeff who's just climbing up 20-foot ladders, giving swantons.
Yeah. And I love how Edge said, that swanton was a huge pop. Everybody loved that. I didn't, but everybody else did.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, he didn't like taking it, which can't say I blame him. Can't imagine it's a lot of fun.
And what surprises me is with this is how all four men are going through their careers here. They're also talking about the team ups and things like that, and the fact that the Hardy Boys and Team Extreme is more Jeff than Matt.
Yeah, and Matt admitted that.
And Matt said that's more him than it is me. I want, I'm my own person. I want to do my own thing. Hence why we have the whole woken, broken thing, which is great. Do I still want to see?
And he talked about when he broke off being Matt Hardy version 1.0, and it was kind of true.
Yeah.
I almost wish they could have another one of these and add the Dudley Boys in, because it was those three teams that were pretty synonymous.
Oh, yeah.
And who knows, maybe they tried and scheduling or something didn't work out, but this is still really interesting. As they mentioned, they could do 100 more of these. Actually, they said they could do a 12-hour live one. You can tell they're all friends, and it's interesting when you consider how everything changed over the years there. Obviously, I think we've mentioned it before, Matt and Edge hated each other at one point because of the stuff with Lita, which happened in real life. And things change and relationships change. Christian left the company. Actually, everybody but Edge left that company for a period of time.
Right, yeah.
Everybody else ended up somewhere else for a while, at least.
And all four of these guys have, their career in WWE and their career elsewhere has just been great for all four of them. Yes, they've had trials and tribulations, but, now that, the Hardys are back in, even though they're doing separate things, which again, I think is great. Matt's doing the Leader of Worlds with Bray, which gives Bray something to do, and Jeff's doing this whole
whatever it is with Orton, and it remains to be seen with Shinsuke.
Yeah, the the whole Orton Shinsuke Hardy thing, which is interesting. What I noticed from when we did Hardy's Woken to now is, since that time of that podcast episode, Jeff is doing more face paint on appearances on Raw or SmackDown, or wherever he is. He's like, I'm like, who's that? Who's he trying to be? Sting? Go away. Like, I'm not saying go away in a bad way. I'm just saying that I noticed that he's doing more in-ring with his character visually than when he first came back, when they first broke off and did their own thing when they came back last year or whatever it was. But yeah, no, like you said, Edge and Christian and all of that, and their chemistry, and how they've all had successes and failures, and how Christian by himself kind of never really took off. Like, he's had a couple of good moments in his career by himself, but mainly it's when he's with Edge that he super succeeds.
Well, he got the world title, at least.
Yeah.
A short run and a couple feuds with Orton during that time. But yes, he never, and it's kind of the same with Matt, actually. Matt's never had, I don't think Matt ever had the world title, actually. And to a certain extent, until the broken stuff for Matt, at least, they were kind of the two that have been forgotten about. But then you look at their careers as a whole and what they've accomplished, and I mean, each of these guys is a Hall of Famer. Edge is actually in the Hall of Fame already, and the other three, Christian is not. He only retired fairly recently. I suspect, I can't remember if it's this year or next year he's supposedly going to be added, but he'll get in there. He had quite the run with TNA where he kind of proved to people and himself that he could be a world champion and he could draw on his own. So they've each had really different careers. Edge, out of all of them, Jeff really is the one that didn't struggle at all as soon as he broke away, and Edge mentions it. Edge is the one that tells him, you had that connection with the crowd that everybody kind of knew you'd be fine on your own. And he still has that, and it's interesting despite all of the... It's interesting that despite all of the issues Jeff has had, and all the chances and everything else, and the time away from TV, he has never lost that. He's always had that connection with people, and people want to see the guy succeed. And to a certain extent, I think each of them have that. And it's fun seeing them, again, like with the ride-along, it's fun seeing them out of the element we normally see them in.
Exactly.
And it helps that these guys are fun guys who can talk. And it was the same with The Shield, and the same with Bayley and Sasha.
Yeah.
It's another one of those times where for the guys who are active, and the ones who aren't, well, especially it's for the guys who are active, I wonder how much of their stuff gets written for them, because I hear Roman in particular talk, and he's a lot more charismatic than anything that he gets to say on TV.
Yeah.
If people saw this version of The Shield, I know we want to see them as the super tough badasses, that kind of thing, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with seeing them as three buddies who are out to help each other, that sort of thing.
I think the characters of The Shield, of the three of them on the show, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, whatever, wherever, they can be the badasses and all of that, and that's the character, and that's fine and well and good. But what I liked about this is them looking at it as, hey, we're all buddies in real life. We just put this on as an act. Like, the best analogy I can come up with is what we saw in this ride-along is like them being Batman, and what they do in the ring as the Shield is like them being Bruce Wayne, where Bruce Wayne is the mask, and what they really are like with each other is what we see in Ride Along, which would be Batman, because that's their everyday kind of life. Again, they're all characters. They're all this, they're all that, and obviously WWE wants name rights and whatever, because let's face it, none of these three guys, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, those are not their real names. We're not going to sit here and say their real names, but, you know, I mean, it is what it is. And ever since they debuted, I want to actually go back and watch some of their NXT stuff. I want to actually go back and watch that match that Sasha and Bayley talked about with Sasha versus Becky on NXT on that takeover. I want to see that now.
It makes you want to watch more of it. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the cool
thing. It makes you want to watch more of this show. I found when they ended, I had no idea how much time had passed. In particular, the ride along, I watched it full screen on the TV, so I didn't have a clock or anything near me. And when it ended, I thought, oh, that's it? And that's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. This was so fun. We're going to be doing more of these episodes, folks, talking about more of these specials. Everyone should be watching Ride Along episodes and Table for 3, Table for 4 episodes, whatever. What's so funny is I believe it is Table for 3. Right as I was about to rewatch the one we're talking about, I found one that they either just released or released a few months ago, the Shield reunion, Table for 3. So that's probably going to be what's coming up next. Maybe, I don't know, here on Mayhem Mics, because if you can't tell, folks, I'm a huge mark for the Shield. What else do you want?
Yeah, they need to continue with this stuff, and they keep. They've just added a special on Elias, which I plan on watching at some point because I have a feeling that'll be fun or tongue in cheek. And yeah, these are interesting, and there's always been a discussion on whether or not it's good or bad that the fans are kind of in on the fact that the wrestlers are characters. Whether or not it's better if the fans kind of lose themselves or don't know about any of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I have no idea. I mean, I did also comment that it's hard for me to boo or dislike Seth Rollins based on seeing his character, and that's probably, seeing his character as a person. Mm-hmm. That's probably something WWE wouldn't like to hear. They want you to be able to kind of go with the flow on their characters, and I think the product is at its best when people are booing the bad guys and cheering the good guys. So, man, this is a convoluted discussion for people who are much smarter than me, but that's always been is it the writing that's making fans, for example, turn against those reactions nowadays? Yeah. Or is it how much they know of behind the scenes? We'll never know. Yep. You'd have to interview each person individually. But it's interesting how happy WWE seemingly is with spoiler alert, Tommaso Ciampa won the NXT title in an excellent match this past Wednesday. Oh, wow. Oh. And Ciampa is the ultimate heel right now. And people booed and hate the guy. That's what they want, or at least I feel like that's when things are at their best. So when Owens, for example, won and got the "You deserve it" chant and people cheering, and I was one of those people, I don't know if it's good for wrestling. I think it's better if the heels are hated. I don't know. And is it the not great writing for a lot of the bad guys on Raw that causes this? Is it I'm 100% certain it's been bad writing that causes the reaction to Roman.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, look at what he's doing now, and they're kind of cheering him now at this point, but because he's doing this whole... I'm going to say this, and I don't care. He's doing this whole kind of John Cena bit where he's kind of bucking the system a little bit. That's part of his character now.
I think a lot of it, though, he's been doing the John Cena aspect from when Cena, it kind of felt like he was the chosen one.
Yeah.
And that the belt is just being kept warm by anyone who's not him with it.
Yeah.
And I understand the backlash to that. I don't know. And it's been kind of sad, too, with the Brock stuff overshadowing everything, that nobody really talks about AJ Styles, the champ that's there every single week and gives a great performance each time. And even we're guilty of that, because we complain about Brock not being there and the belt not being there all the time. Yeah. And we always seem to forget to talk about the belts that is there, although part of that's WWE doesn't put him on in the main event.
I can't remember.
There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, and I cannot honestly, outside of the pay-per-views, I cannot remember the last time AJ had a SmackDown championship defense. I don't know.
You're right. I know there's been recent
I
ones,
know there
but
has, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I cannot remember for the life of me when AJ Styles defended the belt on an episode of SmackDown.
I remember the match with Rusev because it was one of the stronger points of that lackluster pay-per-view. Yeah. I guess that's part of the issue too, is that I remember Styles because he's pretty much always a high point of a not great pay-per-view. We've had a string of not good ones so far.
This year
I still think it's interesting. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I watched a list of the worst pay-per-views and some of the worst rated pay-per-views. And when I say rated, I mean scores given at fan sites and that kind of thing by fans. Right. And there's an awful lot of them in recent memory. Yeah. As in, since I started doing the show with you. Yeah. So that's not good.
No.
There have been a lot of terrible ones in the past. Maybe we should do that someday, too, actually. Let's sit down and watch one of the terrible In Your House pay-per-views or something. And just...
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Well. But yeah, for not terrible stuff, getting back to it, the network stuff is fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. I'm glad that they've gotten back to creating more content, because it looked like for a while they were just content to kind of just have the live stuff for the pay-per-views up.
Right.
This works well, and they've got new ones too. They're chronicling the careers of some guys. They did one on Shinsuke back in April, for example. Mm-hmm. They're doing photo shoots with people where they talk to them. So there's plenty of different shows on the network. I always feel like we're turning into a commercial when we do these, but I really do enjoy it, and I really do think if you're a fan, it's enjoyable, and if you're not a fan, or if you were a fan, there's something there for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone who watched the Attitude Era knows who Edge and Christian and the Hardys are, so I think they'll get something out of watching that, and they have plenty of those. They recently had JBL sit down with Eric Bischoff, and I can't remember who the third was. It was Eric Bischoff, and it's Bruce Pritchard, right? Yeah. I remember. So stuff like that. They've got Hall of Fame shows. They recently had Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, and Sting sit down, which, that's some star power there.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's something for everybody, and that's part of the reason why I keep doing these. I keep kind of enjoying and telling people to watch these. So,
yep, absolutely. And it's like we said, it's just fun. It's like, you listen to a couple of our pay-per-view episodes of the down pay-per-views this year, because it's a sliding scale this year. Like, even WrestleMania, it was okay, but, I don't know.
Yeah.
WWE has this thing where maybe it's because they do 12 pay-per-views a year, or more than that, actually, but,
The sheer number of shows, I really think when SmackDown's moved back to Friday, it'll probably help. But look at all the stuff they still have to put on. They have 3 hours of Raw, they have 2 hours of SmackDown. You've got a 4 to 6 hour pay-per-view every few weeks. And, there's a weekly NXT shows.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of stuff. And I know the NXT stuff is it's taped beforehand. They tend to tape it in groups. And it's a scaled down production, but it still takes effort and takes manpower to put on. And they've got so many people. They've got so many wrestlers now, too. There are wrestlers on this roster that it's happened to me. I look at the name and I go, they're still with the company?
Yeah, really.
They haven't appeared in forever. Actually, we just had Sheamus and Cesaro show up after, what's it been, like a month and a half?
Something
maybe
like
more
that.
off? It's just, apparently, it's just because they don't have anything for them. I find it that odd. But it's got to be tough to write for, 60, 70 employees? Yep. You almost need everybody almost needs their own writer. And then you talk to the other guy's writer to arrange it.
Pretty much, yeah.
That'd be a big payroll, though, so I can understand not doing that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just crazy how much when I say how much, like how many superstars they have in total, not just on main roster, but main roster, NXT, and all these guys that have been there for the longest time, plus the new people. And you add in all the women, that's even more. It's nuts. It's just nuts. And like you said, and like we've said before, having to focus on these 3 people over those 4 people, or this tag team over that tag team. And again, it's going to also combine with what the audience wants too. It's what the audience is reacting to, whether positively or negatively. Like you said, you should want to hate a heel. You hate to love them, or you love to hate them, or whatever it is. That's the way it probably should be, but who knows? I don't know. Alright, so I think we're going to get the heck out of here. I don't know what's coming up for episode 45. Ryan had suggested us doing a career spotlight on The Miz. I have been looking and looking and looking on the WWE Network to see if they even have a collection of when he started versus where he is now. I have not been able to find it, so not sure what's coming up next time on Mayhem Mics. As I said before, we will be doing more of the WWE comic from Boom Studios at some point.
Can I mention that's one thing, by the way, the network doesn't do well? Miz just has a show out that possibly you could have people who are not wrestling fans watching. Why don't you have a collection or some sort of career highlight thing for the guy?
Yeah, really.
I feel like they tend to, that's one negative, they tend to miss the opportunities for very easy content additions or times. Yep. Whatever.
Yeah.
Where can the people find me? Yes. On Twitter at Nightbeat.
I am at TF2 and Mike on Twitter. You can follow at Geekcast Radio and at This Week in Geek for the respective networks. Tune in next time to listen to us talk about more in-ring and out-of-ring wrestling stuff. Who knows? Maybe next time, if we can't find a Miz Spotlight, we'll actually talk about the first couple episodes of Miz and Mrs. the new reality show. So, who the heck knows what's going to happen here on Mayhem Mics? Because it's all mayhem around here. I never know what I'm doing from one moment to the next. So,
true.
Yep. We're going to get the heck out of here, and we will catch you next time here on Mayhem Mics.
Has it been 5 years since we debuted? 5 or 6?
At Survivor Series.
What is this? This is an absolute mauling of Ryback. What are these guys doing? No way! Ryback set through the table! That's Roman Reigns! That's Dean Ambrose! Seth Rollins! All from NXT! What the hell are they doing out here?
I mean, we came in, put our foot in the door, kicked it in. Like a pay-per-view tonight. Who's holding it down? It's true. Who's signing it up?
You just made the list!
All clear.